I literally came running through this bush on the phone to Final Control this morning. The first time that I called them, I knew for certain that she had made a kill from the intensity of the alarm calls that the Impala were letting out, and I came running through here on the phone. The first phone call cut out. I was like, no, we need to get a hold of Peter. And by the time the second phone call went through, I could actually see where the Impala were looking. I was trying to be careful. I was so excited. I knew the leopard was close. And it was a very welcome relief to see VM and Peter arrive from the opposite end that I was approaching from. So they were approaching from the south, I was approaching from the north. And we both simultaneously saw the kill. I heard Peter let out a cheer of joy. And that's when I decided our job was done. Our vehicle was actually parked just up ahead here. You can actually see where the vehicle tracks went off into that little sandy patch there. There's the one and there's the other. And the vehicle was just parked over there, and we were searching for tracks in this general area. Her last tracks actually headed down into this little riverbed on our left towards the Arathusa Dam. So we spread out in this direction. We, as Jeffrey and Bright, the two wonderful trackers that we had on board with us, sadly they've already left, but they were such great guys and really good at what they did. And we started fine combing off in this direction, which was the direction she was moving in. And after not coming up with any tracks, I decided to come back to the last tracks to try and work out what she had done. And that's when all the excitement started ringing out. The sound of those Impala alarming was so intense, I almost had to stop just to make sure I wasn't imagining things. Thought about trying to show you a little squirrel there, but it ran off. VM and I have suggested getting full and easy. VM doesn't like taking shortcuts. He likes doing things properly and making life as efficient and effective as possible. So a great guy to have around in a camp and an operation like this, because he's a Mr. Fix-It and Mr. Make Life Easy. Seeps, please let me know if you leave or if she gets active. Yeah, if you don't mind just letting me know if you leave or if she becomes active. Copy, thank you very much. Okay, so Seeps has said that Shadow is still fast asleep, which is no surprise, and we can just stop here and take a closer look at what's going on at the Arathusa waterhole. Oh, there's such a pleasant breeze blowing over us. Oh, VM's found a grey heron in flight. Oh, what a perfect landing. And it landed next to an Egyptian goose. Well, hello Joanne, and Joanne's interested to know if any luck was had finding two male lion which was seen drinking here at some stage last night. Joanne, I don't have a clue. Like I've said, the radio comms that we have with Arathusa is hopeless, and I usually rely on my cell phone, where we have a WhatsApp group of all the guides in the Sabi Sands that send updates on mainly the lion, wild dog and cheetah, not so much on the leopard. That's more kind of private comms between camps, not the entire Sabi Sands. And I don't have a phone at the moment, so it broke about 10 days ago, and you can't get things fixed out here unless it's with duct tape or mud, and both of those will not fix the phone that I have. So not too sure where the lion are, and not sure which lion they were. Last I heard was that the Birmingham male lions were up on Sibambili, which is north of Arethusa, a very thin property between the northern boundary of the Sabi Sands and Arethusa, and they actually had 6 buffaloes, small ones, but 6 buffaloes between 5 male lions. They could well have finished them and moved off, so maybe these were the Birmingham boys, or maybe they were different lions. Not too sure, and sadly don't have too many updates. To be honest, as soon as Shadow was in the bag this morning, I stopped worrying about which animal was where or what was going on, as that was our main goal, to try and find a leopard this morning, which we did do. And I'm not too sure what is going on with the other lions and leopards of this area. Oh, some swallows and swifts floating up in the sky there. Well done, VM. I know a lot of viewers always love to see these. These look to me like little swifts. Oh no, hang on. That was not a little swift here. It's hard to tell which ones VM is filming, as I can hardly see in my tiny little monitor. It could be barn swallows though. Looks like they could very well be brown swallows. Look at that, what a beautiful sight that is. Just want to see if I can show you, there's a family of African jacanas. Oh, you can see one adult there and the 3 slightly smaller ones. Well, interestingly enough, the African jacana is a unique bird, as the female will lay eggs and leave them to be incubated by the male and raised and fully looked after by the male. So the female will mate with multiple males, leaving her clutches of eggs with them, and all the hard work of raising the youngsters. So not your typical scenario in nature where the man does all the work raising the young. Not sure why there were 2 there. There was 2 adult jacanas in that sighting just before we raced you into it. Anyway, glad you got to see that, and we are now going to send you back to Jamie Patterson for an update on what she's up to, and we're probably going to slowly start weaving our way back towards Shadow. I hope she doesn't take too much longer to get up and active and maybe come for a drink at this exact waterhole. See you later.
And having been looking at those jacanas at Arethusa Dam, I assume, we've moved on to another water bird and the vague disappearing bottom of a male buffalo. The bird we're looking at the moment is the grey heron. And I'm at Buffelshoek Dam at the moment. This is a perfect place to stop and look for the various water birds that hang around here. I can hear dickops, I can hear lapwings. I'm struggling to see most of them though, and as you can hear, there's plenty of wind happening around here. I was asked a little bit earlier about whether or not it is as windy as it sounds, and yes, it absolutely is. Having come right here into the open on Buffelshoek Dam, you can hear it gusting away. I'm really hoping, as this comes through, you can see the torchwood or the greenthorn, the balanites tree gusting in the wind, and I'm hoping that this haze that we're seeing at the moment might mean rain. It's about the time we're getting to storm season. Might have to wait a couple of weeks, but I keep saying this. Every afternoon I have a windy, slightly cloudy afternoon. I'm really hoping this is going to bring rain. especially since right at the moment I'm acutely aware of the fact that maybe I didn't wear enough sunblock this afternoon. There's a somewhat red tinge to my skin and a slightly painful feeling that tells me I might have missed out. Oh, there goes the saddlebird stork. We were talking about water birds soaring round, coming in. Look at the way it drags its feet like that. Oh, perfect landing. Except for the fact that it put itself in the way of the tree. I'm going to shift forward. There we go. Almost. Wendy finds herself without brakes, which means that my movements are cautious, especially on the edge of dam walls. I'm just going to shuffle forward so we can have a look a little bit better. And just looking at Buffelshoek Dam, it's actually quite scary. When we had so many weeks where we could see Bob the Bachelor of Buffelshoek, the hippo, completely submerged, and all of a sudden there's just little mountains of mud starting to come out. Those are not terrapins. It's the bottom of Buffelshoek Dam starting to show. Actually quite scary. A couple of weeks ago we had elephant sightings where elephants were completely submerged in Buffelshoek, and those little patches you can see are the bottom of Buffelshoek Dam coming through. But there's our saddlebull right at the end, having come in for a more graceful landing than I could probably have done at this point in the afternoon, as windy as it is. Hear those high-pitched whistles. I always knew them as dickorps, but they're now, the name has changed to thickneys calling. I can't see any of them at the moment, but that's what's calling. And that's the beautiful saddlebull stork. Taking one last opportunity to wade through Buffelshoek and have a bit of a scout around for the fish. Interesting how we've watched the saddlebull stork behavior develop over the last few weeks. From the last few big catfish at the dams that were drying up, they were catching the last of the tilapia as the dams got smaller and smaller, and then the last of the smallish catfish, and then it got to the point where the catfish were just too big for them, and we had those couple of days of writhing catfish. They're the Duggar boys. They've spent the afternoon in the dam, which I can completely understand. That one on the left almost looks as though his horns have both broken off, which is fairly common. They often knock each other's horns either through fighting with each other or through running away. Oh no, is that slightly curved? No, definitely been broken off at some degree, or to some degree. And of course, as the sun goes down, it starts to be quite a dangerous place to be for something like a buffalo. It's windy, it's getting dark. And sitting at Buffelshoek Dam, where we had the most amazing elephant sighting just 2 days ago, Hayden Turner is sitting in Johannesburg watching our live drives once again and says that he is missing us all. Well, we certainly miss you too, Hayden, and we cannot wait for you to be back with us once again. It was such a wonderful experience having people like Hayden Turner and Peter Pretorius with us. Really, really incredible. And so appreciative of the knowledge that they have to share with us. And I can actually see the dickorps. It's going to be difficult, but I'm going to try and show Jean-Andre where they are. If we go from where the dam where that mound is, where the grey heron is, if we go down and to the left of that, where there's a pile of elephant dung close to the water's edge. Yep, almost the middle. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. There we go. Those whistling sounds that I mentioned earlier, where I said that I knew them always as a dikop, which means a thick head in Afrikaans, they are now known as water thick knees, because they have thick joints around their knees, funnily enough. Quite descriptive. Every now and again you get the odd unimaginative name for the various bird species and reptile species we have out here. Buffalo's hook is proving to be quite quiet, unexpectedly so. I figured that a lot of animals would be out and about looking for water, but maybe they've all congregated around Djuma Dam like those wildebeest. Although as Chandra pans around, you sort of get an idea as to how many visits there have been to Buffalo's Hook in terms of the amount of dung we see scattered in piles around the dam. And just on the subject of dung, whilst I'm thinking about it, I did stop earlier just because I had to, and it's a subject that I haven't mentioned in quite a while, but I did pick up some really tiny elephant dung to show you all, so let me just grab that. It's just so tiny I had to do it. And this baby could not have been more than, I would say, 6 months old. Just starting to eat solids. It's still got a very, what's the word? Sticky consistency. Hold on a sec, I'm gonna grab the adult dung just to give you an impression of size. I've done this before, so bear with me if you've seen it, but this really is probably one of the smallest ones I've seen. Okay, just to give you a rough idea as to size comparison. There you go. On the left is quite clearly an adult, and probably only an adult female. I've definitely seen balls of dung that exceed this quite significantly in size. And for new viewers, just a quick sort of crash course in elephant dung. How do we know it's elephant? Well, it's very coarse, it's very big. Oh, it was actually quite damp in the middle still. And it comes with a combination of grass and trees and leaves, bits of branch. Very, very different consistency to anything else you might find around here. I'm so glad I parked where I have, because bits of it, as I pull it apart, are currently blowing into my face. Definitely positioned myself really well right now. And this little one, in comparison, I said it was quite mushy, and the reason behind this, if we have a look, still with the leaves, little bits of leaves, little bits of grass, not quite to the same extent, but whatever age this elephant might be at, and I would say quite young, it is still breastfeeding. It's got an addition to it that adult elephant dung doesn't have, and I don't know how to explain it. It's just a little bit more squishy. But there you go. Baby elephant dung for you. Very, very baby. I mean, this is really tiny. Okay. Well, that concludes our Buffalo's Hook Dam experience. I'm going to dispose of the baby's dung as well as the adult's dung so it can head across. I'll just do a casual sweep of the dashboard, and whilst I casually sweep it away from me and not blowing into my face and into my eyes, I believe that Scott is still on Arethusa with that wonderful lady. So let's head across to him. I'll catch up with you a little bit later.
So as you can see, not much has changed here. If anything, she's looking more comfortable than ever. Completely flattened out, still panting quite heavily though. But I can assure you it's cooling down dramatically. which I'm thoroughly enjoying. All the trees around us are blowing in the wind, but we are quite sheltered where we are parked. But everything around us seems to be getting a good breeze. That's why at this time of the year, as we get warmer into our summer months, we actually often see leopards up in trees, specifically the marula tree, and that's because they get to get the cool draft that flows through a few meters above the ground. Down on the ground, you're literally blanketed in grass and thick foliage, so it's good for finding leopard up trees, and hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more of that in the coming months. We didn't get to see many leopards up the trees in the winter months, and who knows, maybe she will surprise us a little bit later on. Not too much time left though, and I'm hoping that before the end of the safari, which is ending in about 20 minutes or half an hour roughly, I don't have a watch or a phone at the moment, so not too much time. VM's just given me a signal that it's about 30 minutes left, and let's hope that she gets active and goes for a drink. It'll be really beautiful to see, and also great to see her on the move through this riverbed area. I was seen mating probably about a month ago now, initially with Tingana, and then also with the Anderson male for about 24 hours or 36 hours, so not too long with him, but two different males in consecutive days. It was about 4 or 5 days of mating that she underwent. And then about a week ago or so, she was again seen mating with the Anderson male. So I can't explain this. I'm not too sure whether her initial mating was not successful, or why she would mate in such rapid succession with the same males. Often female leopard will mate with males to give them the false understanding that they may be the fathers of the cubs, and therefore not kill them, as they will kill cubs that are not their own. So just some interesting kind of behavior or ongoings that I certainly can't describe, but are worth keeping you all in the loop with. Regardless of whether the mating was successful or not, or why she did mate with the Anderson male about 10 days ago or so, let's hope that the mating either of the copulations with Tingana, Anderson male, or the more recent Anderson male sightings will result in some leopard cubs. We've been extremely unfortunate, I must say, that we have yet to see any leopard cubs in the year that we've been in this area. The Sabi Sands is renowned for incredible leopard viewing, which we have had. Oh, little stretch, but not of any tiny cubs. So Shadow, yes you, please, in a couple of months' time, can you have some new additions to the leopard family? Oh, didn't seem convinced with my sales pitch there. If the mating was in fact successful, the good news is it should not take too long. It's only a 3 months gestation period. Roughly about 90 to 105 days is the average gestation of a female leopard. And what's interesting is that if they do lose their cubs, they can very, very quickly, within a couple of weeks, come into season again and start thinking about the next generation. Now, on the topic of mating leopards and possible cub prospects, it's important that we discuss this leopard's mother, called Kruger. Kruger is about 5 years older than Shadow at 11 years of age, and she lost a cub that was seen for the first time on Safari Live with another presenter called Mark, and it was such joy and jubilation as they saw this tiny little leopard cub for the first time ever, and within about 2 minutes, if that, a hyena came into the scene and killed that leopard cub. So hugely disappointing in the end. Subsequently, like I said, that was a year ago, we have not seen or heard of her giving birth even once. No confirmed births or sightings of her having any confirmed suckle marks of having cubs, but she could well have given birth to at least 2 litters in the last year that we actually simply have not seen or heard of. So just some interesting stuff that could have happened that we'll never know the answer to, and I'm fairly certain she would have at least given birth to 1 sets of cubs in the last year. And let's hope that if she does keep losing them, or if she has been losing them, that she has a little bit more luck going forward. She's usually a very good mother, or a highly successful mother, better phrase that carefully, unlike Shadow, who's been unfortunately unsuccessful in raising cubs to adulthood. So maybe they will be changing roles and Shadow will start doing well and Kruger will start having a little bit less fortune on the matter. Hello Ashley, I believe you are one of the new members of the Safari Live team. Good to have you on board with us. She's interested to know how aware of her surroundings will this leopard be while she's asleep. And Ashley, don't be fooled by what looks like a deep slumber. She will be incredibly tuned in with what's going on with both smell and hearing. Look at how her ears are twitching slightly around. And it would be her hearing that would alert her to anything creeping up on her. I guess we're quite different as humans to a lot of wild animals. We don't have to be very aware of our surroundings when we are asleep. Well, I guess some of us do, depending on where you live. But all wild animals have to have the ability to be able to sleep with one eye open, otherwise they wouldn't have evolved and made it to where they are today. Even predators like this run the risk of getting caught up by bigger and larger predators like lion, for example. So she needs to be completely aware of her surroundings, not only to find food but also to avoid potential threats. And what I must also add is that they become incredibly relaxed with the sounds of our voices and vehicles, and quite often won't even lift their heads up if they are asleep when they hear a vehicle approaching, because they know what we are. They know we don't pose a threat to them, we've got nothing to bring them. We're kind of this neutral being in their life, and that causes them to give hardly any attention to us, which is exactly what we want. The less of an impact we have on their lives, the better. And as you can see, it's as if we're not even here. To give you an idea of how close we are, we're probably only about 10 meters away from this leopard. 5 irregular door lengths, vertical door lengths, so very close. She's slightly lower down than us in this little riverbed, a sandy riverbed, and we got incredibly fortunate to find her tucked here this afternoon. It wasn't exactly where Peter and VM, who was on camera this morning as well as with me this afternoon, left her.
25 feet according to the camera focus.
Okay, interestingly, according to the camera focus, it's apparently exactly 25 feet away from us. Look at that involuntary muscle twitch. You may have seen it once or twice. Oh, there we go. Helping to get rid of little flies. We are heading off, leaving a very small skeleton crew here to make sure the safari does continue for all of you. And there are certain birds you can look forward to arriving. I'm guessing the woodlands kingfisher could very well arrive. Chick! rings out their call, something like that. And they're incredibly pretty, electric turquoise blue colorings, bright red beak, as well as the carmine bee-eater. So those are two birds that may well arrive, along with a lot more migrants that are on their way. And it's always great to come back to the bush after being away for a short while, because you notice these quite dramatic changes. Even though they are smaller characters and stars of the show, they make a big impact on the general feeling and atmosphere of the African bush when they do arrive, and look forward to sharing some of those special migratory birds with you. Okay, well, we're going to stay here at least for a few more minutes in the hope that she may get up and start moving. Failing that, we may start heading back to camp. Anyway, we will get you back here one last time before we do go, but in the meantime, over to Jamie and enjoy the change of scenery.
And from one type of camouflage to a completely different approach, from spots to stripes, we have some zebra that were cooperating really nicely just a few moments ago in terms of being out in the open, but are now giving us quite the demonstration as to how they disappear off into the background. We're currently looking at the stallion of this particular herd. It is a breeding herd. I know it's hard to see at the moment because they've all disappeared off into the bushes. But this is the stallion. He's got one of his mares on the left of him, and tucked away quite deeply into this block. Believe it or not, in the picture that you're seeing right now, there are about 5-6 zebra that I can see from the angle I'm at, and it just goes to show how cleverly that stripe pattern works. Might be obvious to us because we see in color in black and white, but it's not so obvious if you're a predator peering in between the leaves, especially when the leaves are blowing like they are. And you can see how as they move with the female behind and the stallion in front, it's quite difficult to distinguish between one and the other. Just one more added advantage of their very, very interesting type of camouflage. They're all enjoying a nice last afternoon snack before they find a safe place for the evening, probably tucked away somewhere in one of the drainage lines on Buffalo's Hook. Not quite in the drainage line, but somewhere in thick bush around it. And on a windy night like tonight, we're going to see them all lying down, if they do go to sleep, if they do lie down, facing straight into the wind. Oh, sorry, not straight into the wind, the opposite way, so that they smell what's coming to them, but they can still see what is downwind of them, so that nothing can sneak into them. Look at how cleverly they disappear. Just swishing tails. Hard to believe that just 2 seconds ago we had quite a nice open view of them all. Let me see if we can sneak a little bit closer. We can have one last view of them in this beautiful afternoon light. And to do that, I'm going to have to duck around. I think I'm going to have to duck around this branch that is currently protruding at head level, or maybe just above. I think I might be slightly overestimating my head. And on cue, we found a nice open view. See, that tail still hard at work, keeping the flies away, although the wind is doing a fairly good job as well. Now remember how green it's gone, and it is looking incredibly green. I know that we keep saying it feels dry, but it must feel quite strange if you're watching from the other end of the world and all you see is green leaves. But just try and take a close look at what that zebra's eating. Remember all the green shoots that were coming up maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago? They are slowly disappearing. Yes, the leaves on the trees are green, but that's partly to do with day length more than anything else. And the zebra are almost back to eating dry and brown once again. We had a short reprieve. Here comes the stallion. Now, I believe that there's exciting stuff happening with Scott. Let's head across there. I'll catch up with you later.
Welcome back, everyone. And it's absolutely incredible how good this animal's hearing is. It's managed to hear these waterbuck feeding close to silently in the bush just behind her. And I really am flabbergasted that she's managed to pick up their audio. She's realized that it's not worth getting too excited about because they are far too large for her to take down. But still interesting stuff nonetheless. And just a little bit earlier somebody asked, oh, look at how beautiful that is, how good are their senses, and she was basically asleep and she still managed to hear these waterbuck feeding behind her. Remarkable. There's another vehicle that's just joined us in the sighting now. And what will her next moves be, I wonder? Great contrast between the bright green leaves and her beautiful spotted coat. What I'm thinking of doing is, we have had such a great sighting of her, and because only one vehicle can fit in here at a time, what I'm going to do is make space, and we can say goodbye to Shadow. I'm saying goodbye to her for a couple of weeks, but thankfully you guys will be able to continue following her movements with Brent and James. You're going to be your two presenters for the next couple of weeks while the rest of us are gone. Cheers everyone. I hope you get into a good spot. See you later. She's still lying there. Yeah, I'm just making space so you can get a good view. What? Moving a little bit. Make another successful kill. 3 kills within kind of 48 hours it would have been. Good going considering it is tough business for leopards to catch their prey, as it is for all the predators out here. Their strike rate is often not nearly as high as a lot of people would expect it to be. I mean, depending on the individual leopard, they can only and will only succeed probably 10 to 20% of all attempted hunts. Hello Matty, good to know you watching the safari again. For those of you who don't know, Matty is one of my friends. He's just 9 years old and has taken a liking to being on safari with us and always sends us through great questions. He's now interested to know if I'll be doing any fishing while I'm on leave, and yes, Matty, probably this weekend I'll be going up to my friend's farm. He's got a dairy farm where they milk lots and lots of cows, and on that farm there's quite a few dams where we can fish for a fish called the trout, which actually doesn't belong in South Africa. They were introduced to South Africa from other countries, but they're good fun to catch using a type of fishing called fly fishing, where you have little feathers tied to a hook that look like a fly or an insect, and that's what helps you to confuse the fish into biting onto the hook. So I will be doing some fishing, and wonder if you like fishing, Matty, and if you do, what is the biggest fish you've caught? Or any little story about fishing that you would like to share with us would be great to hear. And I'm sorry I didn't get to find you a snake. Brent nearly found one this morning. They saw a puff adder, which is quite a big fat snake, fairly slow moving, but they can move quickly when they want to. But it slithered off into some thick bush. Not a snake you can take any chances with. They're very dangerous, the puff adders. And like I say, I'm sorry I didn't get to find you one in the last few days. But when I come back from leave, I'm going to do my best to get you a good sighting. I'm sure one of us will get lucky sooner rather than later. There was actually a report of a snake seen at our house today, the house where Brent and Jamie and Nikki and myself and Eugene stay. 5 of us stay in one little house, and the rest of the crew all stay nearby. And the lady who helps keep us all well looked after, she's like our mother, and we call her Mama Z. Her name is Zodwa. Wonderful lady who keeps us all in line, and she came running up to a breakfast that we set up in the bush after this morning's drive, just to celebrate the end of the Nat Geo TV shows, and she came running screaming, "Snake! Snake! Nyoka! Nyoka!" which means snake in Shangaan. And Brent and Jamie went rushing off to look for it, but it had slithered off by the time they got there. So I'm not too sure what it was, but it was slithering around our house today. Beautiful, strong breeze blowing towards us. Quite a few clouds rolled in, which caused a bit of an early sunset that we weren't in a possible situation to show you in that low-lying riverbed. Teresa in Virginia Beach, good to have you on board again, and thank you again for your reminder to update James and Brent on the hornbill nest. Well, it's a possible hornbill nest. I don't think it's necessarily 100% yet, Teresa. Just the fact that we saw those 2 hornbills mating in a marula tree, which did have a cavity which looked promising for home, doesn't mean they necessarily used it. But I will be sure to let Brent and James know. And fear not, even if that isn't a nest, or if they don't manage to find it again, there will be lots of hornbill nests amongst other nests that we locate over the coming weeks. And it's great fun sitting and waiting at the nests in the knowledge that the adults will return at any point with some food to feed the youngsters. Once last year we were sitting at a woodlands kingfisher nest, which is the same kingfisher that I says makes that wonderful call and is migratory that we can expect back soon. This is how the call goes, kind of, and it brought back one of the adults. I'm not sure whether it was the male or female. It brought back a tiny little snake that had fed to its chicks. That was quite an interesting one. What we but you can let your imagination run away with you. Well, again, just to remind all back onto a regular swing of things, and we can get back into the flow of being on safari with you guys, because it's been a bit all over the show. The safaris is for the greater good of all of us, and hopefully this idea and concept will continue to grow and prosper in that it will, and I'm just waiting patiently. Well, again, but it's time for me to say goodbye for the next couple of weeks. Well done, VM, on camera, and he's also going to be saying goodbye because he's also due his break, as is Nikki. So a few of us will be heading off, but there will be a crew here to continue taking on safari. Have a great time, and I look forward to seeing you all in the beginning of November. Over to Jamie.
And what a wonderful afternoon it has been, and thank you so much all of you for sticking with us. I know it's a slightly shortened drive and you had a couple of disrupted schedules over the last few days, but once again, thank you for being with us and putting up with us, and we'll be back to normal tomorrow. I'm going to be going on leave as of tomorrow, so I will say goodbye to you all for a 2-week cycle, and thank you all once again for a wonderful 6 weeks. It's been incredible being able to share all of these amazing experiences with you. Thanks, Chandre, and have a wonderful day to all of you, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world. Bye bye.